if you look at what we've been reporting, the Spurs and the Warriors, as we've told you now for several weeks, are the leading contenders. The problem is the Spurs are only offering Keldon Johnson. And I'm here to tell you that Danny Ainge is not interested in a Keldon for Lauri swap. He's not interested in that. And I think when you start seeing that the Warriors have not wavered, they are willing to trade one of their two young guys, Pods or Kaminga, to make this deal happen. And I think one of the real telltale signs about this deal getting closer is now you are seeing that the San Antonio Spurs are willing to put in a third first-round pick. And you can tell that they are seeing that they have to come with a sense of urgency to get this deal done. I'm telling you, the Golden State Warriors, from what I was told yesterday, are firmly in the driver's seat to make this trade happen. There is no sense of urgency as we sit here on the 24th of July. There is no sense of urgency to make that deal happen now, today. The Jazz are going to drag this out as long as they can because La GM, Danny Ainge, is a guy. What, is that not the proper nomenclature on your show?
La Trade Machine Ainge.
You know, like when the league gets Ainge'd, my point, when Danny Ainge finally decides to make this deal, I think it is going to be Podziemski, 3 first-round picks, and a player from a third team. And I think that the Jazz are going to have to send out multiple players. And I think that Andrew Wiggins is going to have to be traded by Golden State. Golden State, I can also tell you, I was told by a different source yesterday, Golden State does not have an Andrew Wiggins deal. And that is one of the major hurdles because, again, and I know that people like to argue with Lamonti on this, but what I'm telling you is that this deal for Golden State doesn't happen with Andrew Wiggins on the roster. Period. End of story. If the Utah Jazz and the Golden State Warriors make a deal that involves Lauri Markkanen, Andrew Wiggins is standing in the way of long-term security for Golden State. And Lauri Markkanen, I do not believe, would willingly go to Golden State without a renegotiation of his current deal for this coming season and the promise of an extension going forward. And the reason, again, that is so significant is Lauri Markkanen currently at his $18 million number does not qualify for a maximum extension to his contract. And he is eligible to be extended August 6th. And the actual mechanism of that is the Jazz will, or somebody will, renegotiate his salary for the coming season from $18 million to $34 million. And then they will extend his contract, and he will have an AAV that is likely somewhere in the low to mid 40s. He currently does not qualify for that low to mid 40s number because he's only making $18 million. And per the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, he has to be at, I think the number's $33.8 million this coming season. He is not. So I continue to tell you that the only way this deal gets done for a team like Golden State, who would be a repeater if they go over the salary cap again and break the aprons, which they would do with Wiggins and Markkanen on this roster, and they're not going to do that. Because I would also remind you that they are in a position where they cannot take on salary beyond their own bird rights players. They're not in a position to make this deal happen now. They've got to find either a third team to make a Markkanen deal who will take Andrew Wiggins, or they need to trade Andrew Wiggins independently. It is as simple as that. I think Golden State remains in the driver's seat, mainly because Danny Ainge is not interested in Keldon Johnson. I think that one thing is very clear. Keldon Johnson is not the same player that Brandin Podziemski is. He does not project to be as good as Pods is and has been and will be. He is not the shooter that Pods is. If you look at the numbers last year, Keldon Johnson did not start the entire season. He is a less than 50% field goal shooter. He is a good, certainly not great three-point shooter in the low 30 percentile. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the Jazz to build a trade around Keldon Johnson and first-round picks when Golden State is so willingly, as a trade partner, willingly giving you one of their best young players and they are willing to make a deal to get you that third first-round pick, which, again, I want to reiterate, I know it's being reported that Danny Ainge is demanding 4 first-round picks. Danny Ainge is not demanding 4 first-round picks. I was told point blank yesterday, Danny Ainge is looking for at least a young player and 3 first-round picks that are quality first-round picks. Danny Ainge, and I think you'll see that at the end of this deal, if this trade gets made, somebody else's first-round pick is going to be part of this. If let's say that it is Golden State, they're going to move 2 first-round picks, and somebody else's first-round pick that is quality will be part of this. The main reason that Lauri Markkanen is not wearing an Atlanta Hawks uniform right now is because they don't have a quality first-round pick that they can move to the Jazz. They don't want the Jazz, and Danny Ainge do not want first-round picks, for instance, that are top 12 protected. There's no value in that for the Jazz. If they're going to tank, they need 20, 24, 25, and specifically the 2025 NBA draft, which is projected, Cooper Flag be damned, is projected to be one of the top 10 draft classes in the modern era of the NBA with that much talent, including Cooper Flag. It is going to be one of the best drafts on paper that we have seen in this generation of NBA. And if that is in fact the case, Danny Ainge is not doing a Lauri Markkanen deal for a top 12 protected first round pick. It makes 0 sense for him to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other question that always comes to my mind about this situation is, let's say the deal does get done with the Warriors and, they figure out that third team and everything gets handled perfectly. Is a guy like Pods going to be on this roster, when you're thinking about contending? Is this a deal that, pushes you closer to winning? And or is it more of a situation where, the Jazz are just simply not looking to be the ones that pay that extension for Lauri, and they would like to move him for that reason? I don't know, but what I am saying is that if this Markkanen deal gets done, I just hope that, the value you get with these picks that you're being so steadfast on, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'd be steadfast too. But if you're going to be this steadfast on the picks portion of the deal, I just hope that when you use those picks and you get those guys from the draft, that you can turn those guys into value, because I feel like we're going to be talking about a couple of years from now, couple seasons from now, that, hey, yeah, I mean, you did trade Markkanen, you did get Pods and some other value, and it didn't really pan out, because that's kind of what I feel like the conversation with the Jazz has been. Like, hey, you've got all these draft assets and you're making some deals, but it's not quite getting you to where you want to go. And I think for the Jazz, that's going to be the crucial part. Like, this deal does need to get done, in my opinion, for the Jazz. They're just not in a place where they should be paying a guy like Lauri Markkanen that kind of money right now. That's just not where the Jazz are at. So I would agree that, yeah, I think they're going to trade him too. But I just hope that if and probably when you get this deal done, that you actually take advantage of that value that you're getting in the draft. And hopefully that can turn into something. And hopefully we can start to talk about the Jazz turning a corner, instead of just like being yet another deal where you're sort of transacting and the West is getting better and you're just kind of chilling. Because I feel like that would be, it just wouldn't be ideal. That's not what anybody wants. So hopefully they can do that.
Yeah, I think the deal gets done. After the conversations I had yesterday, I feel like the Jazz have, excuse me, choking on a D.
Yeah, don't
Stay
die.
hard.
I feel like the Jazz have turned a corner on Lauri Markkanen. And I think that they are going to make a deal to put them in the best position to A, save money, and B, hopefully be in a spot to acquire Cooper Flag. I think that's where they see. And it's interesting. I in all the people I speak to, I don't know that I've heard this level of excitement over the NBA draft in a good bit. Obviously, the Wemby draft was something people were excited about. This past draft, there was no enthusiasm for this past draft.
No.
Which I think was illustrated by the Bronny headline grabbing. that he was able to accomplish. And I think you look at the lack of enthusiasm at NBA Summer League in Vegas, like there just wasn't buzz around guys the way there is buzz around. I think there's a dozen starters coming in this NBA draft. I think there are at least 12 guys who could be frontline starters for NBA teams. And I think that if you are Golden State, you have to understand that the arms race has never been more spread out, that there has never been this much competition in the Steph Curry era. Is the Curry era a real thing? I think it is.
Yeah.
In this new and improved championship caliber Golden State Warrior generation, there's never been this depth of talent, especially in the Western Conference. And whether that is the Clippers continuing to spend and be aggressive, you look at what the Lakers are doing, you look at the youth and the depth now that OKC has. I mean, you look at the top of that conference, Victor Wembanyama. I think you're seeing that it's becoming more and more difficult to win the West. And then you look at the Knicks and you look at the Mikal Bridges trade, and you just look at how good this league has become and how spread across the talent is. I think Golden State recognizes that Lauri Markkanen is kind of a unicorn. It's really difficult to get a guy of that caliber to put next to a guy of Steph's caliber. And when you start to understand that Steph Curry is a top 5 guy of his generation, that he is the best shooter in the history of the NBA, I think you have to do everything you can do to extend that window. And I think that's where the Lakers and Golden State are. I don't think the Lakers give two rats ass about paying luxury tax. They don't want to pay repeater tax. They don't want to, I mean, you're not going to pay a penny more in tax than you have to.
Right.
But they're willing to do what it takes to put more rings on Steph's hand. There is no question about that. And I think the biggest question is, and if we're just keeping it real on this Lauri Markkanen thing, does Lauri Markkanen make them a championship contender?
I mean, I think he does. I think that Markkanen is somebody who, fills that role perfectly, because again, you're not asking him to be the number one. You're asking him to be, the number 2, the guy that can make a difference for you in the interior. Obviously, he'll get his fair share of chances to shoot the 3, but I think on that team, you're asking him to knock down his shots, because that's the thing that I think about with Steve Kerr's offense, is that he's going to get the individual player the shot that they like the most. So he's going to get Steph into the corner. He's going to get Steph on the wing. He's going to get Markkanen at the elbow. He's going to get Markkanen into a situation where he can back a guy down or get downhill on somebody. Like, he's going to do those things. So I think when we talk about them being a championship caliber team, I think the only question is, how long will it take, Markkanen to learn how to play with Steph on a nightly basis, to learn, hey, like, I'm not, obviously I'm not playing with the Jazz anymore. Like, this is what this offense looks like. We're way more up and down, or, this is just a different culture. So, I think we saw when Kyrie and Luka got together that took some time. I mean, there was growing pains with that. That was like 20, 25 games of just trying to figure it out. And I hope for the Warriors, if this deal happens, that Markkanen can figure that out a little quicker. Because if he can figure that out inside of 20 games, I mean, I do think they can compete.
I think he's a pretty easy, he's an easy fit in pretty much everybody's roster. I think the bigger question for me is, can he be the guy in Golden State that he was in Utah? Or is he going to be the Chicago Bull, Cleveland Cavalier Markkanen? Because that should be a real concern. Lauri Markkanen was the focus of the offense on a team with zero expectations in Utah. And he thrives here. He thrives here because ain't nobody give a hot damn if they win or lose games.
Yeah, there's no pressure.
There has never been pressure on Lauri Markkanen to perform in Golden State.
Right.
You weren't the big draft pick you were in Chicago. You weren't the guy you traded for to get Cleveland to wherever they were trying to go. And now you're being traded because you're too good. And I wonder what he turns into in a situation like Golden State.
Well, I mean, I think if Golden State gets Utah Jazz Lauri Markkanen, I like I said, they're a playoff contender, no question about it. I mean, that's a team that, the best version of that team is I would think, you could reach, the second, third round. I don't know about the finals.
But are you trading for Lauri Markkanen and giving up a Podziemski or a Kaminga? And I still, I hear pretty routinely that the Lakers just don't want to give up Kaminga.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm in this position where I don't see it with Jonathan Kaminga. And I watch a lot of NBA. I know I don't watch Jazz games.
Right.
But I watch a lot of NBA. And I think Jonathan Kaminga is a freak athlete. Does that translate into a top 5 guy on a championship roster? And the answer is, I don't believe that it does.
Yeah, well, I would agree that I don't think on a championship roster he starts, but the problem for the Warriors is they need him to be that. They need him to be, in their starting 5, and they need him to, and maybe
is Lauri Markkanen better than Jonathan Kaminga?
Yeah, by a lot.
I think it's not close.
Yeah, I think Lauri Markkanen's much more physical. I think he's much more wanting.
Better shooter, clearly a better shooter.
Yeah, better shooter. I do think that one thing people don't talk about with Markkanen's game is his willingness to be physical with guys when he's getting to the rim. Because again, Euros in the NBA have this reputation of being soft, but Markkanen's not that guy. He's somebody who is more than happy to dunk on you, use his shoulder. Like he's fine to do all that. And I think, for Kaminga, the bonus with Markkanen, again, if this deal gets done, would be that now Kaminga's playing, the third best defender on the team, potentially the fourth best defender on the team, depending on the set you're running and the switches you get. And that's why I'm telling you, that's why I think Markkanen's such a great fit with the Warriors, because Steve Kerr understands how to draw plays up that put guys in a really strong position to be successful. And all Kaminga's got to do is either get fouled or make the shot. That's all he's going to be asked to do. Hey, get downhill, get fouled, go to the line, or if you have an open look, we need you to make that at a reasonable rate. And I just don't think it's that big of an ask for the Warriors offense to be successful with Markkanen.
Podziemski or Kaminga?
I would be keeping Kaminga.
You would be keeping Kaminga.
Yeah, I would, because I don't think Pod, projects out to be like a big time scorer. Obviously, that's not his game. His game is much more of like I say, he's a point guard, shooting guard that is really good at getting into the paint and facilitating. Like that's kind of his game. Now he can shoot it, obviously. He's got, he can finish a little bit. But I think if you're the Warriors looking at this, you have to make the decision on these two. And the question to me is who has higher upside? Who do we want more of? And I think that's what's tough. I wouldn't be trading both of those guys either. I would agree that that's too much value to be given up for Markkanen.
I think I am all day, every day in on Podziemski more than I don't. I just spent a lot of time watching big tape. I don't see him as a transformational star. I think he'll be a really good 6, 7, 8 guy. I don't think on a championship team, unless he turns into something other than a freak athlete. And I know I say this a lot, but everybody in this league can dunk. It's not impressive. I am not wowed by your ability to jump and put a ball in a hoop at 10 feet. I'm not. So I look at Podziemski's numbers, and I think the thing that stands out to me most as a rookie, he averaged 26 minutes a game. He played in 74 games, and he shot 3 threes a game and shot 38.5%. That projects to a guy that can be 39, 40%, which in this league is really tough to do. Really. So he's already a really good 3-point shooter. And then I look at his turnover numbers, and he's only turning it over less than 1.5 times a game, 1.2 per game. And that the more he shoots, that total points number is going to go up. So if he gets to 12, 13, 14 points a game, and if he's diming out 5, 6, 7 times a game, now he's a really impactful player. And I think, does he ever project to be an elite on-ball defender? We'll see. I don't know. I mean, 6'4", 205. So he's got a bit of a
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
I think he does. I think he can be. I think everything that he does, he can do it better. He needs development, which is always terrifying when you talk about the Jazz. They don't develop anybody
Yeah.
or haven't. That's the guy I want. If I'm Utah, I am taking Podziemski, 3 first-round picks and a couple of pick swaps, and I'm making that happen. And I think that's where Danny Ainge is. I think all this Kaminga bullshit is just a smokescreen. I don't think that the Jazz, at least not from what I've been told. And again, I know that, LaRogaine is my source, but I am a firm believer that the Jazz have never said, well, we got to get Kaminga or nothing, which was that never happened.
Yeah.
I think they want Brandin Podziemski and 3 first-round picks for Lauri Markkanen. And I think Golden State's going to make that happen. And that's why I think I'm at 80%. Now, I could be totally wrong because I'm telling you, people I talk to, and a lot of them are adamant that the Jazz want Jonathan Kaminga. And the last time I talked to my Jazz guy, I believe was last Thursday, and he said Podziemski's the guy we're after. He projects. And the Jazz love that term.
Yeah.
He projects. They like that Podziemski projects to a starting point guard. I would remind you what the GM said about, Danny Ainge, not LeBron. What Danny Ainge said about Keontae George. He's not a number one. But everybody, I think, misconstrued what Ainge said about Keontae and what he said about LaGeorge, in that I think people thought that Danny Ainge meant, well, we're going to get rid of Keontae George. I think the Jazz, from what I understand and what I'm told, see him as their number 2. And if you put Podziemski next to LaGeorge, LaPods, next to LaKey, I think you're looking at a really dynamic backcourt. Now, can they stop your mom and her cousin? Probably not.
Yeah, not with La Walker on the bench.
But we're going La Walker.
Yeah, Walker Kessler.
Never heard of him. My point is, I think La Kessler. I think you're in a position here where the Jazz see that Podziemski can be their number 1 guy. He can be a guy for them. And Keontae, I think the one thing the Jazz got out of Summer League, I still maintain, is that when you saw him in La Salt Lake playing in La Summer League, that it's going to be all show. I'm just telling you. When you saw Keontae George at Summer League, especially in Salt Lake, the quality of the jump shot he made, the difficulty of the jump shots he made, he dominated the competition. Now, what did Lamonti say about Summer League? Everybody can dunk. Everybody can dunk. Everybody. Well, here's the problem with that. How did the other Jazz young guys look? Not stellar. We didn't see a whole lot of quality shooting. We didn't see Cody Williams, phenomenal athlete. Breaking news: everybody in the NBA can dunk. Like everybody can jump in this league.
Well, in the problem I have is that, for the Jazz, like, cool, Cody Williams projects to be an all-star with a low shooting percentage and a great athlete. All right, cool, man. Pods projects to be this, the projects thing, I would agree is like this. It has, cool tech term written all over it. Hey, well, the stats saying he projects to be an all-star in like 10 years. So we're gonna trade for him now. Like, cool, man, but you guys don't develop anybody. So again, I'm sitting here as we're talking about this potential trade, and I'm like, cool, like if they get this trade done, awesome. But it also is yet another step, in the wrong direction. Again, a lot of Jazz fans.
When you say wrong direction, what does that mean?
Well, a lot of people felt like Markkanen was someone that the Jazz could build around. Someone that you could potentially put a playoff contender, not an NBA Finals caliber team, but a playoff contender. You could build that around Markkanen. And I kind of agree with that. But at the same time, I just think that the Jazz are not prioritizing winning right now. They're prioritizing saving money and they will tell you prioritizing development, but I don't see much development happening. That's the problem. So again, when we are talking about Danny Ainge saying that Keontae isn't a number one, maybe he should have specified that, we view him as a two guard, not a point guard. We want him to develop into more of a shooting, scoring guard rather than a facilitator.
I think if you look at his history, Lauri Markkanen, does anybody remember what Lauri Markkanen was dealt to Cleveland for? What if I told you?
Oh boy.
Lamarckinen was traded to Cleveland. Larry Nance to Portland, Derek Jones Jr. to Chicago. Like, how does that, how do you feel about that? Like, that tells me something, right? Like, okay, that was not the Lauri Markkanen that we saw. So now you say, okay, well, what did the Cavs get for Lauri Markkanen? Ochai Agbaji. Colin Sexton goes out with Lauri, right? And you ask yourself, is Donovan Mitchell is he a better player than Lauri Markkanen? I think he is. At the top end, is Donovan Mitchell a better player than Lauri Markkanen?
Yeah.
Because now I do think this fucking matters. You're going to trade Lauri Markkanen for a young guy. Whether that's to San Antonio for Keldon Johnson, that's not happening. To Keldon Johnson's not, and I know Spurs fans are like, oh, Keldon Johnson's all world.
No, like Keldon's amazing.
He didn't start for you, and his stats backslid last year, but that's just me. Or let's say you get Podziemski, let's say you get Kaminga. Did you waste Donovan Mitchell? Well, if you're looking through the lens of saving money, no, you didn't waste Donovan Mitchell because he signed another huge extension, and you don't have to pay Lauri Markkanen. So for all the Jazz haters who are pissed off that I keep saying, hey, your paper billionaire isn't paying guys.
Yeah.
Let this trade be a cautionary tale of a guy who is not a liquid billionaire saving money so he can afford his hockey team and to pay the coach at BYU. Just sliding it, look Cougars. Anyway, the point is, you look at what the Jazz got for Donovan Mitchell, and it's essentially all gone. Because Colin Sexton's not going to be here.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen at that point wouldn't be here. And you gave up Ochai. Okay. Right? Who cares? Guy hasn't turned in anything. Okay, great. Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, can be the second best player on a championship team. And what you're telling me is Lauri Markkanen is not. And you're hoping that Podziemski and Lackey turn into something. Because that's really what this is about. Because I think a lot of people forget that here on the Lamorty show that you got to look at what happened with Rudy and Don. Because if you trade Walker Kessler, was the Rudy trade worth it?
No. Again, none of these trades are going to be worth it unless you develop the draft assets. Because that's what it is. That's the selling point. Like, Pods is a first perfectly fine player. You're not doing this deal for Pods, right? Like, yeah, you may get him, but that's not why you're doing the deal. You're doing the deal because you don't want to pay Markkanen, and you're trying to get more draft assets out of this deal, just like every other deal.
All right. Settle down. What do you ultimately think happens?
They'll trade him.
And they'll get what?
They'll get what you said they'll get. They'll get Pods, 3 firsts, and a swap or something like that. A little additional.
I'm curious the quality of the draft pick that comes back.
Yeah. And I agree to your point that you've been saying for weeks now. Andrew Wiggins has to be off the Warriors roster if this happens. That's just a prerequisite.
Totally agree. All right, let's get your thoughts in here on the Lamorty show. Or is it Lamarty show?
Lamarty's probably better.
I mean, you're the LeBron hater, so how do you want to use?
I'm,
sucks.
Jakey Bayless. I know.
Jakey Bayless.
Yeah, I'm on that quote skip juice today apparently. So,
Do you disagree?
Yes, I do disagree. Yes, I do. Yeah.
So you're not a hater?
No, I'm not. I wasn't hating this morning. I wasn't at all.
This morning, like you say that like it's some badge of fucking honor. You hate every day. You hate on something or some. Wow. What about La President? What about what about LaDonnie?
What about La Fingernail Painter in Chicago?
God, what?
My bad.
Why do you even do that? Why?
Well,
why?
You're stirring the pot. You want me to hate? Okay, I'll hate. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm in a space finally where the Chicago Bears have a quarterback of note. He is clearly the best quarterback Le Bears have ever had, right?
Right.
Because Le Bears never have quarterbacks.
Right.
So La Fingernail Painter is the guy that is finally, and then you've got to be La Cocksucker and come in here and be like, oh, wow. You know what
that's like these days?
I'm going to punch you in the face.
Well,
La face. I'm going to La punch you in the La face.
I get it, dude. I get it.
It's my quarterback.
Whatever. All you need to do is download the La Prize Picks app and use the promo code Monty, MONTY Monty. Another really shitty loss last night. And listen, I'm just going to pull this up and I'm going to ask you to mourn with me because dollars are not easy to win.
Right.
But god damn, they are easy to lose. And I just want, listen, I want people to understand that as a man, Jake Cronenworth has a really small penis. This was
Stay hard.
This was established by the fact that I was like, there's no way that Manny Machado is going to have a game tonight. It's Tuesday night in the baseball season, and it's July. Manny Machado ain't showing up.
Oh yeah, well, 4 for 4,
2
4
for
home
3
runs.
with a run. So naturally, I said, well, Jake Cronenworth, the Great White Hope,
The Great White Hope
is going to come through for a mother.
Right.
0 for 3. Not a single base, you prick. Okay, so Monty's rule of, or I'm sorry, Lamani's rule about playing 3 guys in a flex is fine. Because of course, we all know that, Steroid, or I'm sorry, Aaron Judge, he's going to come through big for Lamarty, right? Aaron Judge, you swing the bat. Bro, you walked 4 fucking, you walked 4 times. Can't step balls an inch off the outside, right? You just can't drive that ball out of the yard to right field against against the Mets, right? So you take an 0 for 1 with 4 walks.
We show up.
Fucking asshole. And then just because Marty's a Cub fan.
Right.
And we know factually that the Cubs, they're in it to lose it. So we all know that Seiya Suzuki is the hero that we need. Just all I need you to do, my friend, is 2.5 total bases.
Right.
That all I need is 2.5 total bases. And you got me 1 total base.
No.
0 for 3 last night.
Damn.